Greetings, Mega Man fans, and welcome back to the Mega Man Super Fighting Robot LPA. In this episode, we will be taking on the third stage of Skull Castle. I really have nothing to say right now, I'm sorry. Okay, that's long. Oh, I see. We're going for an elevator ride, aren't we? Also, head vault. Plenty snipeable, though, so it's not too terribly dangerous if you know what you're doing. The gabule there can be, well, certainly in a bit of a tight spot, but nothing too tricky. And here we have an elevator room that proves far more useful than the one in Trash Man stage, as it serves as an ample moment to introduce the beamhat enemies. Beamhats are these flying top hat wearing cannons that shoot sets of 3 beams diagonally downwards at a set interval. They are a very simple enemy type. Like, very simple, as you probably figured out by now. And that's a plug clops, and oh dear. Well, we had to deal with them eventually. It's time for force beams. Well, as soon as we deal with this plug clops, it's actually in a halfway decent area for being a threat. But fortunately, these force beams are actually far more merciful than typical force beams in a couple of ways. The first way that they are more merciful is the fact that they shut off, unlike typical force beams, which once they fired, that was it, you were done. The other way they show a pinch of mercy to the player is how, if you actually land in them, they don't kill you instantly. Rather, you just have to deal with a massive health drain, which isn't nearly as bad. It gives you some ability to, you know, recover. So that gabule there is in a right difficult spot if you're unwilling to just throw giant axe at it. Anyway, this room here is a typical, it's a typical example, albeit a very easy one, of the type of room we're going to be dealing with primarily for most of this stage. Trying to figure out where is safe to stand and where isn't. As an important note, the beams will go right through glass. And, whoops, proof of concept that they just drain your health at a very rapid rate, as opposed to actually killing you. Oh, and I'm not safe there. Alright. Now to do something particularly brazen. Surprise! I wonder how many people actually know this room is even here. But anyway, I do want to get the goodies. Or try to, anyway. Okay, take 2. That didn't work. Using rush here is, as you can see, can be a bit tricky. There we go. Alright. This one should go a little more smoothly. And there, even an E-tank to boot. Much appreciated. Okay, now to get up here, where I am safe. And there. And time to get rid of that totem try to get rid of that Totem Podu before it can become a threat to me and fail miserably. It doesn't feel... Totem Podu and Flarpus there don't feel like they do a lot very new, do they? Also, these pillars to the left look so much like ladders. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's mistaken them for tried to mistake them for ladders a few times. And we have more laser rooms. Only this time, it's getting a bit more dangerous to maneuver. Need to be a bit more careful here. Unless you want to get torched or skewered, as you can clearly see. Okay, this is safe. This is a level that works really great if you can memorize the layout. If you can memorize the layout of some of the laser rooms, or even just be really good at remembering where they fire from, this one actually can go rather smoothly. And now we're combining lasers with water. One of the few times in SFR's Wily Fortress where a gimmick from prior stages actually comes back. Namely, the water that we saw in Soakman and Leafman stage. Somehow I'm not surprised it's water. If anything, it reminds me of Rainbow Man's stage from Unlimited a little bit. And where there are water, there are splash modes. But it doesn't mean we've forgotten about the lasers either. No, this stage will combine the two gimmicks with little remorse. So, you do want to be a little cautious. Like, don't just assume that because you're underwater, you're safe from laser fire. That is most decidedly not true. And yeah, I enjoy grabbing money too much. And now we have water physics to deal with on top of the lasers, which can make things a little tricky since you're a bit slower in water. Fortunately, I can stand on these glass blocks over top of the lasers just fine. Okay, not safe. Safe now. Like I said, actually knowing where is and isn't safe is a huge boon in this section. Yoink. Ooh, that was close. And down we go. That was easy enough. But this section here, if I die anywhere in the stage, it's gonna be to this pit. Watch. Okay, it's to spikes instead. Still, like I said, if I'm gonna die anywhere in the stage, it's gonna be right there. That's probably one of the trickiest parts of the stage to actually survive. Unless, of course, you do something like use Zap Barrier. Because, you know, that's perfectly allowed. I mean, it's perfectly okay for the game to expect that at this point. You have the weapons, why not use them? I mean, I'm sure by now we've all figured out that the weapons of Super Fighting Robot are quite strong ones. And oh, right, grabbing weapon energy for no good reason because I forgot I didn't have the energy balancer. Good going, me. Forgetting about your own self-imposed no upgrade run. Good going. Yeah, as I said, I'm not using the upgrades for now. I'll be showing them off in a later video once we're done with the fortress, because this game definitely has more to it than just everything that we've been shown so far. And as usual, I want these goodies. Alright. Let's try not to die to the spikes or the pit this time. Or lasers as well. There we go, much better. Okay. One interesting thing about this section, despite it being a fortress water stage, which means there is the presence of instant death, I'm noticing it actually doesn't use it as much as we've come to expect from fortress water stages at this point. No, if anything, this has gotten rather tame, and that was a nice combination of... That was a nice combo of Splash Mo and... That was a unique combo of Splash Mo Prime and ow, and Metal Swim right there. I must admit, I'm impressed. Okay, well I can kill the beam hat, I can't reach Fire Shoot with it. No. I'm already nervous enough about this. I'm already nervous enough about these jumps. I don't really need to deal with a Fire Shoot in the process. There we go. And I think we're almost through. That was a barrage turret shooting me in the face. Okay, whoa! Uh-huh. That's a lot of laser content. Never mind, it has been, very quickly dethroned in terms of over-laser. Okay, there, I made it. And now I have to go back through the room, only in slightly more difficult conditions. Next to this spike right here is the save point. It's probably one of the hardest save points to memorize in the entire stage. And that's the stage! I gotta admit, for me, it's one of the easiest Wily stages in the game, but I actually really enjoy it. For a stage filled with force beams, which, speaking of which, when I first got in here, I was actually really scared that a laser was just going to come through here, considering in the screen just behind me, there was lasers coming through here just fine. So I half expected a laser to just come through and try to shave my head off or something. But, I actually really like this level. For a force beam level, it has a very different aesthetic from the usual gotta go fast that you have to deal with in those levels. Instead, this is a level that promotes waiting and calculating a plan of attack, for lack of a better term. Figuring out your method to get through the level. Whereas the level before it was, with the sniper target, was very much my kryptonite, this level is one that I find far easier, as it tends to play my playstyle, with my intense caution sometimes, works a lot better in this stage, making it feel rather easy to me. That being said, I do appreciate that we have a fortress level water stage that still doesn't abuse instant death. It's far more prevalent than it was in Soakman's stage, but never really got to the point where I felt like it was just spikes. It just felt like Wily decided to decorate with spikes. I appreciate that. That's actually really neat. Instead of having water and spikes everywhere and just using the cheap, typical challenge, it uses the water in conjunction with the lasers to create very interesting difficulty curves. Going from smaller, simpler rooms with lasers, to having more lasers, to having lasers and more lasers and less room to maneuver, and then lasers and water, which makes you move slower, at least in the air. It's actually a very clever way to handle a difficulty curve, and it works. Fortress levels in general have all been really well designed in this game. I'm really quite impressed. And on that note, the boss fight. Remember how I said learning how Splash Mo behaved was useful? This thing is why. This is Splash Mo Prime. You think like the Metal Daddy, only for Splash Mo. It's actually incredibly easy to fight. Like, oh my word. If I actually do take a hit here, that's literally the LPA curse. This is single-handedly, for me, the easiest boss in the entire game. Unless I'm fighting it on Insane Mode. On Insane Mode, this thing is actually a huge pill. The reason being is that it possesses these conveyor belts that actually make it a lot harder to stand in one place and dodge absolutely everything. Like, the fact is, with this setup, the only time it's, for lack of a better term, its blind spot is going to be taking any hits is when your way to deal with that is to jump up and shoot it in the face. Like, no damage, casually perfect runs the thing on camera. Splash Mo Prime is absolutely the easiest boss in the game, and really, if you are having significant difficulties perfect running it, you really need to figure out its blind spots and fast. It is really, really easy. I was so disappointed when the conveyor belts were removed, because originally, the conveyor belts present in Insane Mode, which we haven't actually discovered yet, but Insane Mode is a thing that exists. It's a harder than hard mode that we will unlock during the course of the playthrough. But it is... Like, the conveyor belts used to be present in the normal mode fight, and they actually made the fight quite a bit more challenging. But now that they've been removed, this thing is easier than the unrelenting fighting obliterator used to be. And trust me, UFO, without the sniper target, was an absolute wimp. So the fact that this thing is even easier than that, well, I think it's earned its easiest boss in the game title. Kinda disappointing, that. Anyway, with that, we've completed the stage. I like Wily 3. I definitely like Wily 3. I'm liking the fortress so far, period. It's actually all been really well designed. I definitely cannot complain. Splash Mo Prime is an interesting boss. With the conveyor belts, it's an interesting boss. Without them, it's kind of lame. As I managed to demonstrate really freaking easily. Anyway, with that, that's the end of this episode. So, thank all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode, where we take on the 4th stage of Skull Castle. Anyway, until then, goodbye!